Hi everybody, welcome to our new webinar, Getting Great Photography, Insider Tips for Capturing Your Work. My name's Olivia and I'm excited to cover with you some photography tips and tricks that will really make your photos stand out and capture attention. Just for a little housekeeping before we begin, this webinar is pre-recorded so you can listen whenever works for you and come back to it as many times as you want. And if you have any questions, just send them to our ausupport@houzz.com and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. So in today's webinar, we'll share how pros can approach getting good photography that will win potential clients. We'll cover what makes a great photo, the best practices for setting up photo shoots, how to leverage working with photographers and make the most out of your photos once they're captured. So your photos will be the first impression that someone has of your brand. So thinking about what homeowners are doing today, they're heading online to find inspiration, to do research for the renovation and design projects that they want to undertake. And they're searching through lots of photos to find what they like and what they don't like. And they're also looking for pros who can make their dreams come to life. So your photos will either make a really good impression or a not so good impression, and the quality of your photography can really determine which one you make. So knowing this and the impact that a quality photo can have on your brand, this means that you need to showcase projects with great photography, as it's one of the best ways to give potential clients an idea of what you could really do with their home. So in a competitive renovation market, it's necessary to have great photos showcasing your work to stand out from the crowd. So Rockwood Cabinetry shares their perspective on great photography. They've said, photography that captures your work perfectly makes a big difference to potential clients looking to hire. To boost your profile with great photos, we would always recommend hiring a professional. But if you do want to try it on your own, we'll go through the tips to make your project stand out. So the first question to ask really is, what makes a great photo? So this is something that we've been asked a lot too, and it's things like the size of your photo, the lighting, the composition, the angles, visual consistency and staging. These are all elements to a really great representation of your work. So we're going to go through all of these in the webinar. So tip number one, when choosing which photos to upload of your work, just remember that bigger is always better. Photos with higher resolution are going to give you more clear magazine-like images, and they'll look really great in the Houzz photo stream and also when being viewed on a retina display. So consider what you want your images to do as a commissioner. Do you want to print them? Do you want to frame them or perhaps get them published? Do you want to use them for digital or social media? The higher the resolution, the more options you'll have for better image quality across a variety of different mediums. So here are some do's and don'ts specifically for Houzz and our photo guidelines. So we do recommend you upload high resolution residential photos that are at least 1,000 pixels wide or more. Use either JPEG or PNG format. We don't want photos of commercial spaces, as we are a residential platform. Photos that are too small or the resolution is too blurry, or photos that are also in a PDF or EPS format. It's just not something that we, as our platform, supports. So a crucial element to great photography is lighting, and this rings true whether you're taking the photos yourself or whether you're working with a professional photographer. The difference between creating average photos and the best architectural and interior images lies in being more intentional. While spontaneous photos can be very whimsical and beautiful, photos of interiors requires more control over things like lighting, selecting the right time of day to take a photo, or even using fill-in lights or Photoshop to really create the best image. So we spoke with a photographer, Duncan, on tips for lighting your projects like a pro. And here's what he said. So he says, especially if you're a non-professional, try using only natural light first. On-camera flashes often light things up very near the camera, way too much, not providing enough light for things in the background. If you look at the image on your screen, so the window in the photo is providing the most natural lighting, and it's kind of giving off more of an airy image. So the photographer hasn't even needed to use the downlights on the ceiling above the dining table. So timing your shoot, so planning your shoot around daylight. If you can, plan your shoot either early in the morning, a few hours after sunrise, or kind of later in the afternoon before sunset, when the light is a little bit more even in the house and the need for other lighting decreases. The sunlight is less direct at these times, and so it will filter through windows to create sort of natural shadows that can really add life to your photo. Even better, a cloudy day might provide better lighting with less glare. So the Australian sun obviously is really quite strong, as most of you would be aware. If you don't kind of have that, you can also play with shading to photograph your interiors when the sun is too harsh. So keep your light consistent. So different types of lights, whether it's sunlight or from the flash of the camera or even the lamps and the lighting in the room, they all have different hues of white. Ideally, all the light types in a space should be the same, so you're avoiding competing tones. So lighting tends to be more orange at one end of the day, while the sun has a more bluish hue during the daytime. Turning up all of the lights is just one way to avoid mixing light. If you do need additional lighting, try and find bulbs that give off the same color as the daylight so that everything is kept a little bit more even. If you are taking photos yourself, particularly at nighttime or at twilight, our advice really is to use a tripod. Putting your camera on a tripod can help you have a longer exposure, which is really needed to pull in the light when there's really low lighting, and it will help you avoid really blurry images while capturing these areas. So, for example, the photo on the left was taken with a tripod and the exposure was longer. You can tell this actually because the clouds look like they've been moving, and obviously the exposure is not instantaneous if it's going for a bit longer, so it is likely, the clouds would be moving, and this has created really clear lines of the house and the pool, and you can sort of see everything. And then on the picture on the right, no tripod. They've put it on a long exposure, but they haven't been able to keep their hands still, so it's pulling light from multiple different directions while the exposure is over a longer period of time. So the key to create beautiful photos is also composition. So this is made up of a mixture of components of the space that you're taking photos of, and also just the way that you're taking photos. So photographers will often vary their composition. Taking the time to compose a shot meaningfully will make a huge difference for the end result. So only frame what you want the viewer to pay attention to. Good composition will make the room look more spacious, inviting, and really leads the eye around that entire space. Remember, people like symmetry and they also really like balance. So I feel like Australians are particularly good at this, especially with their bathroom photos. So it's less about the size of the room, like it might be more in maybe the US aesthetic. It's more about the features here. So this example on the screen here, you can see they've got symmetry with the shutters in the background. There's leading lines on the floor and also the vanity. So that's really directing us to the bathtub, which is clearly the feature of this photo. They've got depth. They've put like a stool in front of the bathtub, so it's adding a little bit more. It looks less two-dimensional, and they're also using a lot of natural lighting. So when you are shooting, try to set your camera very straight. Don't tilt it up, don't tilt it down. When you tilt the camera up, vertical lines of the photos get distorted and it doesn't look very professional. for super strong compositions, shoot straight onto the elevation of the room or the building. And in order to do this, you need the camera to be sort of parallel to your subject. And this will often result in a more pleasing photo with a really nice graphic feeling to it. So lower angle photos, so the angles of the shot can vary. So some angles are lower and that brings furniture to the fore often, which is particularly useful if you want to highlight smaller details like cushions or even crockery on like a dining table. So this kind of style for shooting might be more preferred for, say, interior designers where they've styled a space and they really want to show even the smaller details of what they've styled with the home. Wide angles, when you're taking a wide angle shot, we do want you to avoid wide angle lenses. While it sounds slightly counterintuitive because you would like to capture the entire shot, a wide angle lens makes items close to the camera appear larger and items further away appear much smaller than they actually are. And this creates a distortion that's unnatural and it's just not something that we recommend. So standing back and using a lens with a normal focal length puts all the items in a comfortable proportion to one another. And another great way to highlight your work is through capturing multiple angles and playing around with the composition of the photo. So experiment with wider shots or closer shots, look at the room from different angles, consider things like visual harmonies, colors or lines and texture. Can you vary the focus or bring attention to different aspects of the room that people want to see details of? So depending on your objectives, you may settle on a consistent look or tone, or you may choose to vary it. Our research shows that homeowners love seeing sort of the full room of the space, but they also want to see the smaller details that really create character. When you have a photo shoot, also try to create visual consistency. So being consistent with your photos helps you display your work in a way that homeowners will come to sort of recognize as they see it over and over again. So for example, looking at the images you see here by Julianne from the Den Interiors, she styled each image for visual consistency as the colors of the blanket might match the cushion, which might match the artwork. Even on the right image here, the actual shape of the cushion, the shapes on the cushion are matching the artwork above. So obviously, if you're not an interior designer or a decorator yourself, you may want to consider hiring one or working with one to help style your shoot if you're a builder or an architect and you want to take a photo of your space, but you want it to be styled. So staging, so props can also really improve the look of an image. So it helps your photos look like an actual home that's being used, and it's really not hard to do. So you might consider adding a bowl of lemons or oranges or books. As you can see here, the photo on the left, they've got a fresh loaf of bread, and on the right, there's a pair of shoes and a newspaper. So it just makes the home look like a little bit more authentic and look like it's being lived in, rather than having a very bare home with sort of minimal characteristics of it. But staging can be quite difficult when it comes to bathrooms. Bathrooms are a little bit maybe less is more, and I think some pros sometimes get a bit carried away with the bathrooms and how many props that they're using. So the first tip really is just to put the toilet lid down. No one wants to see an open toilet. And then tuck away all the irrelevant objects like a toothbrush or toothpaste and razors. Like standard objects that you would see in a bathroom aren't always the most appealing. Things like shampoo bottles and small rolled towels, as you can see here, and kind of creams. These are all fine. And then as you can see in this example here, we've also got like a little succulent and a straw basket as well. And it just looks very inviting. So we do get asked a lot about the 4 pictures and progress shots. So pros want to know whether it's worth including it in their projects on Houzz. And we really believe that showcasing your project stages and progress points highlights your creativity. So a lot of homeowners might not understand what's possible with a space, which is why they're hiring you. The professional needs to give them something that they can then compare the different stages. So we do recommend showing progress shots. As you can see, the progress shot here, it's been renovated and it's been decorated and it looks fantastic, and then they've hired a professional photographer as well to really highlight the work that they've done. And so this is definitely a best practice for you. You can take it, even if you just take it on your smartphone. You know, obviously you don't need to hire a professional photographer to take a photo of something that you're going to then demolish or fix up. But yeah, smartphone photos just gives the homeowner a little bit more kind of understanding of what, you know, why they want to hire you, and the work that you've done and the transformation that you've made to someone else's home. So on that note, we do recommend hiring professional photographers as a best practice, so we do have a professional photographer network on Houzz, and I've got the link here on the slide. And it's just a great way to find photographers at competitive price points. You can take a look at their portfolio, their Houzz portfolio, and kind of look at the style of images that they create, and just make sure, obviously, that they're going to be able to capture the work that you want it to be in the way that you want it to be captured. So remember that people are hiring you because you're an expert at what you do. So as the same is true for professional photographers. In fact, it's professional photos that are more likely to be featured in the photo stream, to be used in Houzz editorial stories, and to be saved in idea books. So when looking to hire a professional photographer, it's important to do your research and find somebody who can capture your work. You want to showcase it to potential clients as a representation of what you do. So hiring a professional photographer is the best way to ensure you're capturing your work in the best way possible. So Studio S Squared Architecture says that you're costing yourself potential clients by not representing your work in the best possible light. So remember, great photography is an investment on your brand. Once you've found a photographer you want to hire, how do you prepare them to capture your project? So when it comes to photo shoots, how involved would you like to be? That's really up to you. Depends how much control that you want over the final photos. So set the photographer up for success by communicating with them a clear vision of what you want and your goals for the project, and make sure that they will capture them in the way that you want potential clients to see it. So one way you can also do this is creating a shot, like a shoot list or a shot list for the photographer, which explains, you know, the rooms that you want them to take photos of, the angles that you want, if you want it in like a landscape or if you want it in a portrait photo, all of these things, then they're able to take those photos for you. And that's just going to ease the communication between yourself and the photographer. So once you've identified who you'll shoot your projects and who you'll work with, it's important to also set expectations with your clients, and to do that from the very beginning, so that you'll have a smooth process after the project is complete. We have a few best practices for you to follow and make sure that you get the best images you want. So Annie tells us that she approaches clients and how she sets expectations for a photo shoot from the beginning. So at the beginning of every job, I hype them up and tell them how I'd love to photograph their house. So one way to talk about a photo shoot from the very beginning is, of course, to photograph your work. However, keep this in mind, while a signed photo release is legally binding contract, sometimes people just may not want their home photographed. So your clients can be one of your strongest sources of referral business, and getting photos of their property may not be worth having an angry customer on your hands. Having those photographs can pay dividends, but at the end of the day, if the client still does not want the photograph to be taken, we have to ask ourselves if it's really worth burning the bridge, even if there's a signed release. If your clients are happy with photographing their homes, timing is really important. Strike while the iron is hot. So Sharon Flatley, she recommends a quick follow-up. If you can shoot as quickly as possible after the project is complete, that's best. Also explain to clients that having photos of your work is vital to grow your own business, and this can really help them understand the importance of the photo shoot and why you're asking for it. So take the leap, have the answers to common client questions about photo shoots prepared before the client has a chance to ask you. And you can prepare a one sheet that will address things like how you'll be protecting the client's privacy, what the actual photo shoot will entail, where the photos will end up, and things like this will just help put the client at ease, and that will make them more likely to cooperate with you. So finally, you've got to the stage, you've captured all the photos. So how do you really maximize the reach of those of those images and you set yourself up for success? So having new projects uploaded regularly highlights your profile and gives clients a reason to look at it and learn more about you and the research and research for their upcoming projects. In order to improve search results, every photo that you upload can be described by keywords selected from these little drop downs that you see on the screen. The keywords should be about what's in the photo. These are search filters for our users, and the more complete the filters are, the photos, the higher the likelihood that your photos will come up in relevant searches. So how do you get your photos added to idea books? So add new projects with high quality images on a regular basis when possible, and use professional photography to get the best quality image. Make sure that you complete the photo facet drop downs, the little keywords for each photos, so that they can reach out to you as easily, the people can search for specific keywords and your photos will come up. So finally, you can spread the word through your own network. Have your friends, colleagues, families add your photos to their idea book. Sharing your photos with your network and clients is a great way to get your project put into circulation. It will help increase their presence on Houzz. And an added bonus is creating an idea book with clients allows them to get engaged from the very beginning and allows them to take an active interest in the project as they begin working with you. So key takeaways: photos, especially professional photos, capture your work and showcase it to potential clients. When attempting photos yourself, you need to think about lighting, angles, composition, props, and color schemes. Find a professional photographer. You can use the Houzz Photographer Network and really maximize your photos on Houzz by uploading them promptly, adding keywords, and sharing them via idea books. So remember that it takes experience to capture the perfect shot, and the best way to do it is to hire a professional. So our research has shown that profiles with professional photos have 10 times more engagement and 1.5 times more photo clicks, pro contacts, and site visits as well. We also know that authentic photos of real homes generate 7 times more engagement than brand visuals like stock catalog images. Showcase your best possible photography and you'll get the highest level of engagement from homeowners. So really don't miss out on the opportunity to boost your portfolio with Houzz services. So if you're interested in learning more, you can send an email to ausupport@houzz.com, and we'll make sure we get you connected with someone from our team. We also would love to get your feedback on this webinar topic and presentation. So let us know if you found it useful and it offered information that you can apply to your business. And if there's any other topics you'd like to suggest, please feel free to email us. Again, the address is ausupport@houzz.com. So that's the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.